With the news of the lack of PvE, or Blizzard will claim, we're still doing PvE, aka just some story missions, which is not what people typically refer to as PvE content, despite it being player versus environment, but whatever, you know. It has a lot of people speculating as to why Jeff Kaplan left Overwatch, as well as the additional article from the Overwatch dev team that they released trying to kind of save face after the announcement, kind of reignited the speculation around Jeff Kaplan leaving, and especially around, because of the dev article, they talked a lot about their initial vision for the game. And from my perspective, it just seems like, and I haven't, you know, I'm just speculating and haven't watched this video yet. We're going to learn from your Overwatch here. Apparently they got some deep leaks, some of the sauce in there, you know what I'm saying? From my position, it's probably just a corporate greed scenario of executives making decisions that they have no business doing and impacting the creative vision of the game, and the, you know, in turn impacts the gameplay for the players and what we will receive. So with that out of the way, let's just get into it. Let's figure out why Jeff Kaplan quit Blizzard those years ago. Let's check it out.
What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your
What
Overwatch.
up, Frito?
A YouTuber friend of
We love
mine,
Frito.
Sir Swag, released a video where
Shout
he
out Sir Swag.
outlines quotes from an anonymous source that he has from Blizzard Entertainment, a developer that knows the inner workings of what was going wrong on Team 4, the dev team that was working on Overwatch 2 and the now canceled
Look how,
PvE.
guys, that was so beautiful. What y'all saw that talent tree? It looks so beautiful, didn't it?
I reached out to Sir Swag as a precaution to say, hey, bro, is this legit? Yes, it sure is. He has my confidence and trust. We'll break down the details of the leak, and as well, I think this illuminates a lot of the growing story arc of Jeff Kaplan leaving and the inner turmoil with the company. The anonymous source says the cancellation...
Guys, we could have had something beautiful. We could have had something here.
...was 1,000% an upper management executive issue. It was all about profit margins, that they were looking at a game...
So confirming our speculation here, it seems, again, this is also some leaks, and they're having to keep people anonymous for obvious reasons. So none of this stuff is confirmed, but I mean, at this point, guys, Blizzard has lost so much trust with the community. I completely don't trust Blizzard at all. I would trust some underground leaks way more than I would trust Blizzard personally. But again, you know, take it with a grain of salt, because these are leaks and they are anonymous. So
like Diablo Immortal, which was making $2 million a day, and that changed the expectations for the suits. The PvE was looked at as increasingly irrelevant and not going to earn money in the long term. Keep in mind that just the live service multiplayer game that they already had all of a sudden turned on a new revenue stream just by adding a battle pass and cosmetics.
This is another one of these short-sighted corporate decisions. This is how I feel about Blizzard, and same way I feel about like a lot of decisions Amazon makes around things. They're so, Amazon and Twitch, they're so short-sighted. They're so profit first instead of like community and game first. Like, it's just so short-sighted, because if you invest in your game and you invest in your community with your time, your energy, and genuine effort, love, and money. And by the way, all the Overwatch devs who do work on the game, I trust that they love their job and they're putting a lot of love into their work. I'm not really talking about the people actually working on the games. It's the people who make the decisions. If you actually put that investment of time, love, money, all that good stuff, you will get a long-term gain. That is why, World of Warcraft was so successful, and why so many other games are so successful, and like YouTube is so successful. I always talk about YouTube and Google, even them being such a large corporate company, and they make some poor decisions all the time, of course, but I always see them more of as a company that is more not very short-sighted. They look long-term. They make decisions that will... that in turn can give you a short-term loss, but for long-term gain. And this is how I felt about Blizzard for a while now, is that they are just so short-sighted with their decisions.
So you can see why higher executives would look at that and say,
the game's not going to make money. Yeah, but you can you can ensure that you have a good connection to your community, that you have brand loyalty. People are actually going to play your new games. People are going to trust you when you put out statements, put out game updates. But when you start making the decisions that Blizzard has been making for the past several years, you lose that reputation, you lose that brand loyalty, and eventually people are going to stop playing your games.
Why do we want to invest in making this big, complicated, expensive game when we can make money in easier ways? So these claims stand to reason to me.
We can just make mobile games.
But it gets worse. During the pandemic, there was slowed production, and as progress got worse and they struggled to meet deadlines, there began a vicious cycle that was doomed to fail. The leak talks about talent leaving or getting reorganized to other projects, but also keep in mind that there was the lawsuit, which maybe some employees left due to protest, but as the production got worse, they actually pulled resources from the team, which was a doomed to fail strategy. And a little bit at odds because the team is always publicly talking about how they've expanded the team, doubled the size of the team. But no offense, when they bring on some of the new developers, they are often quite young. And no offense to young people, but a lot of the best devs and the seasoned veterans, the ones that usually have enough experience or knowledge, well, those are beginning.
They've been in the business for a while, just like any industry.
To get thin, as many of them have left to other companies. So the anonymous source speaks quite contrary to a lot of the public messaging that we're getting from Blizzard. If you pay close attention, multiple Blizzard devs in the chats, live streams, BlizzCon line, the blog.
Yeah, because at this point, Blizzard is less of a premium workplace. For example, I always compare Blizzard to Riot Games. I think they operate in a very similar space, are similarly sized companies. I think people view them in a similar spot, right? And Riot, despite, them having some reputational issues as well, they're not a perfect company by any stretch of the imagination. But for example, my girlfriend is a game programmer. She had just graduated and she is currently looking for jobs. You cannot work at Riot unless you have legitimately 5 years of experience or, it's very hard to work at Riot. It's a very premium position unless you're going to intern and try to maneuver in that way. But to actually get a hired position there for a regular full-time, like an associate level or anything like that, it's extremely hard. And Blizzard just simply doesn't have that premium anymore. I actually don't know what their hiring practices is right now, but they can't have the premium that like a company like Riot Games has because they have such a good reputation at the time of me making this video. You can argue about, their lawsuit situations, but I just mean their reputation as a game developer on its own is so much higher that they can't operate at a premium level that other companies that they're supposed to kind of compete with or maybe not directly, but you know what I'm saying? They can't operate on that premium level anymore.
Blog posts say how they've doubled the size of the team, increased way bigger than they've ever been before, but at the same time, they're admitting publicly as well that the workload they had was too much. It really sucks that the developers have to be them.
Yeah, so it might just be a quality of developers as well as I guess maybe they're just lying about their development team being the biggest it's ever been. I don't fucking know.
Themselves the marketing mouthpiece for the game as well. So they sort of have to tell the lies that Bobby Kotick would want them to tell. Keep in mind, this is the same guy that would reportedly write.
Yeah, this is how I always feel. Like, I hate the perspective of like the devs don't care. Like, these people are the people who care, right? The developers of the game actually really do care. But it's just they are the front-facing part of the company. It just feels bad, man. It just feels
verbatim
bad.
The response.
They're in a tough spot, but also like they're fucking us over and lying to our face, spitting in our mouths. It's just I think the devs are in a tough spot personally.
Is that his figureheads would say in response to the lawsuits. So you really have to be careful absorbing any of the PR speak from anyone at Blizzard as if it's them speaking themselves. No. Yeah. They're speaking for Bobby. So they talk about the team side.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. They're not speaking for themselves. They're speaking for the corporation. Like, you need to understand that. These are not bad people. At least I don't think so.
Expanding, but does that mean part-time work? Does that mean the commissioned artists that they have to churn out the skins content for the game, that you have to imagine they pay less than a full-time employee? You're not really going to pin them down on any logically congruent storyline because somehow they both want us to believe that the team is massive, big, and capable, but also they have to apologize for canceling the massive, big project that they had and instead transferring all their energy to something that is lower on production costs and a higher return on investment, as opposed to making a wonderful.
Yeah, we'll make story modes and sell you our battle pass and $20 cosmetics for your chroma skin. Poggers, we love skins.
Game that will build the franchise's IP strength overall. No, Bobby doesn't like that. He likes profit margins, small investment, big payoff. instead of a bigger investment and also a big payoff. No. The amount of profit is all that matters. Another contradiction from the anonymous leak.
Just corporations are just so short-sighted, bro.
They said a lot of the developers left when the work from home policy was enacted, meaning that employees had to actually live near the Blizzard campus where it's very expensive. This is directly in contrary to Jared Ness, who says the opposite publicly. But again, I feel like this is a case where Blizzard's PR speak tries to have it both ways. Did people quit because of the work from home? If they did, that would ultimately have a significant effect on your productivity. No? And if the team is big and capable, well, where's the product for it? It really sucks to have these developers speak on the behalf of the company and feed us these lies that just don't add up. But
yeah, it sucks so much. I'm going to keep reiterating this point, but these people are trying to make a good, beautiful game that we all want to enjoy, right? But it sucks that they have to be the mouthpiece of this bullshit. Yeah.
Ultimately, we know who to blame. It should have been no surprise to anyone. The anonymous source goes on to say something that I think we all know, is that the devs really just did the best with what they were given. And as they've said publicly, developing the talent trees for every single hero in the game was an insane proposition. I almost wonder if they would have been better off just like taking 8 heroes or so and making that game first just with them.
Yeah, they could have done something like that.
From the devs, they've told us that it was easier to design a brand new hero for PvP than to do the skill trees, which had all these different options for PvE, even though...
Yeah, why couldn't they... Yeah, they could... I mean, I'm sure they considered this. Releasing a game where only 10 of the heroes are playable, maybe like a small class of, I don't know exactly how they want to do the classes. It's kind of like an RPG style. Yeah, they could have done something like that to make it a lot easier on them.
Though it doesn't have to be as balanced. Somewhere between 30 and 50 talents for each hero in the game. That's an insane amount of content, especially when you think of like an action RPG. I'm thinking Diablo, Borderlands 3. There's only a handful of characters in the game, and then they span off into a few skill trees, but it's not so much more than the amount that they're saying there. If they did try to do that game, it would have been the biggest action RPG type game of all time. So it's really heartbreaking to see them not be given the resources to make that game of the decade that it could have been. But it makes sense when you think to the way that Activision Blizzard King runs all of their IP. Candy Crush, Call of Duty, they want Overwatch to be like that, and it needs...
They own Candy Crush? I didn't know that. I'm just ignorant of that.
If they wanted to make a real game instead of a cash flip with a low investment requirement and high return on investment, aka milking out IPs and giving the least amount of product for the most amount of money. It's a really unfortunate business strategy, because if you look at a game like World of Warcraft, which is just outrageously massive, Overwatch 2 could have been the next thing. It could have reached towards the MMO aspirations that Aaron Keller talked about in the dev blog in my previous video. It could have reached that size of game, but at the moment, the best thing we're going to get is like a full campaign in like years of time, which I suppose is better than nothing. But
I mean, a campaign for Overwatch is going to be awesome. I'm definitely going to play it, but you already know that shit will take like 3 years to come out, man. Like they might release a few missions here and there. But my God, dude, so depressing.
It's nowhere near the artistic vision of what these devs wanted to do. And that's where I want to transition to talk about Jeff Kaplan, where it's blatantly obvious now that he was not signing up for any more of this ATVI BS. And while you guys know I had a lot of philosophical differences with Jeff over the years, I'll be straight up, the guy just did not like me at all. I was a thorn in his side for years, but I always respected the man's integrity and artistic vision and very unique route to arriving to a competitive multiplayer game that was unlike any other. Because Jeff worked on the WoW team for so many years, and as Aaron Keller said in his blog post, the team were WoW devs, they thought of things in more of the magical player immersion point of view. Whereas...
And this to me is the saddest thing about Overwatch, kind of like what Frito was talking about here, is that Overwatch could have been, like, it was so hot when it came out, man. It was so cool right when it came out. Overwatch is what inspired me to start making content in the first place. I've said this before. My very first video I ever made was a Tracer guide for console, because I was I peaked master on PlayStation 4 on Tracer. I was a Tracer one trick. Ended up started playing Genji after that on PS4 in Season 1. And that's what inspired me to first start making gaming content. Overwatch could have been like one of the coolest games ever. It truly had the potential, and just constantly held back by the development company, just constantly held back by corporate greed. It feels so bad. That's what feels the worst to me, is just the missed opportunity.
Other competitive titles, let's say Valorant, are all about the competition every step of the way, which does have its benefits, I will admit, but you can see the weaknesses clear as day. The characters are less defined. Yep. They often aren't as imaginative or intuitive. So over the years, I had to grow a level of respect for the alternate route that guys like Jeff Kaplan or the now former lead hero designer Jeff Goodman would take to design. They look to maximize the fun first and worry about the competitive viability later. It gave us the GOATS meta we were trapped in, but it also gave us 2016's Game of the Year. So I tend to take the good with the bad. Now let's look back to quotes from the 2019 announcement of Overwatch.
Yeah, Overwatch was so fun on release. And again, just reiterating, that's what is so sad about Overwatch, is how fun it was on release.
2. Keep in mind that many of us believe that this was pushed out the door because Bobby Kotick wanted to change the news cycle surrounding BlizzCon with growing controversy over the Blitzchung incident. So they had to come out with the big announcement then, even though it's pretty clear in hindsight they weren't really ready to do so. On stage, Jeff explained the endlessly replayable missions that they called hero missions, and he said it's what adventure mode is to Diablo. It was aimed to have a progression system with custom abilities and talents. Then he went on to explain that they wanted to redefine the sequel. And this is where I always thought it was very tone deaf to speak this way, because while Jeff was trapped at Activision Blizzard, where they're used to sequel churn like Call of Duty coming out every year, losing all of the progress, cosmetics, and everything to play a different game year on year, the rest of the industry had already changed to free to play. In 2019, Fortnite was the biggest game in the world, and at the start of that year, Apex Legends launched.
Yeah, it's all about creating a super game now. A game that's, people complain about live service games or games as a service or whatever, but yeah, it's changed now. The landscape has changed. It's all about a super game. I really think, Fortnite really kind of changed the game, but I think League of Legends is like one of the biggest impacts on this as well. It's a game that's existed since 2009 and is still like pretty much at its peak, except for in North America. Pretty much everywhere else, it's still at its peak because they continue to just put a lot of love, energy, and constantly new content, constantly looking at the future. You can complain about the Riot devs all you want, but they definitely put a lot of love into making the game better. The worst thing about playing League is the players who play it. It's definitely not the game itself and how the developers treat the game. It's definitely not that.
So we had 2 games destroying Overwatch at the same time, which were free to play and had all of the benefits Jeff was talking about for the sequel already free in the game. So Jeff wanted his sequel to bring all of the old players along with, so you could keep all your cosmetics and you'd still be able to play with the new players in Overwatch 2. We never really got the full explanation of what that meant because it didn't make any sense, but over the years we were able to stitch it together, and what it was going to be is that the PvP would just get updated and the PvE would be an entirely separate Diablo game, essentially, with its own campaign and end game. And you would pay for that new experience, but you could also just stick to PvP if you wanted. They would be separate. That was always a competitive disadvantage, though, because at Activision Blizzard, they were a bit in a bubble with the box product model being so profitable for them. The writing was on the wall even at that point.
Yeah, I don't understand the Call of Duty model anymore of releasing a brand new title every single year. I really don't understand. Like, that model seems so antiquated and weird. Also, it creates a problem where you're stuck creating, like, you have to keep creating a brand new experience every year. And that's a lot of pressure, where it's a lot easier to just, you create a brand new experience every year, but you don't have to do it from scratch. You don't have to like do a whole big release. It's just, you can drip feed content to people and have like bigger content updates the same way that like League, Fortnite, all the big games do it seasonally.
If the rest of the industry was on the boxed product model, then yeah, that would have been revolutionary. But with so many free-to-play games already robbing attention from Overwatch, that was going to be doomed to fail. And think about this from Jeff Kaplan's point of view. you. He gets to be the scapegoat that goes on stage to overpromise this massive game that they're trying to make, that Aaron Keller cleared up on how audacious the vision of this was. That not only did Jeff want that, each hero having 30 to 50 talents in a PvE endlessly replayable Diablo game. Behind the scenes, they wanted another higher, bigger game, a MMO game over that after they made Overwatch 2. That's what
that was the biggest news to me. Like, that was crazy to me, learning that they wanted to create a real MMO experience is like the initial vision. Man, how... We could have had something here, guys.
3 was going to be. So at some point in the company, based on the leaks that we know from Sir Swag, they're looking at the numbers of all of this and how Jeff wants to scale this up, and I'm assuming a suit said no. In fact, I'll give you less resources. Good luck doing whatever you want. It always felt odd to me because Jeff Kaplan was vice president of Blizzard Entertainment, but I think as the coverage of the lawsuit and everything has gone on, we all know that there's really just one king at Activision Blizzard. It's Bobby. Every other position of leadership just seems to be a token. And hey, I mean, vice president.
I'm pretty on it. I'll be honest, guys. I'm a little bit ignorant to their corporate structure, so I appreciate Frito explaining that for me there.
Was already probably a token position, but it felt strange that he couldn't have more pull to get what he wanted. But adding everything up now in hindsight, I think Jeff was looking down the barrel of the change of strategy that was being pushed onto him from top down, seeing everything that he wanted to build be reduced to rubble, and Jeff has to sit there and think, does he want to have to come out again and give this massive apology that he shouldn't have to make? I don't think Jeff would have wanted to lie to us and say that PvE is coming and then months later down the line explain that it's in this diminished capacity after he had just years ago on stage promised the world. I can see why he'd want to leave for that. Let someone else have to tell those lies. He was not going to walk the plank. Because while I have been on board for the free-to-play change, expensive cosmetics, I don't mind paying a battle pass because I like the content I get in it. I enjoy it more than loot.
Yeah, I don't mind buying a battle pass.
Boxes. I like the seasonal model. I like the update cycle we have. I even will probably like the campaign. So it's not even really necessarily any of these decisions that I hate. Because I never needed a Diablo game for Overwatch because Diablo 4 was coming anyway. I like Diablo.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. I didn't need that. I mean, Overwatch could have been this like amazing, cool thing. It's just the spitting in the mouth, man. It's just lying to market the game, and then that's what it is for me. It's the lying. It's the marketing of the game that makes people invest time, which is to me the most valuable resource in the world, because you expect a bigger payoff as it goes. You know, I had some people comment on my video the other day, and I see the sentiment around like, how can a free game scam you? It's because time is your most valuable resource. And there are so many people who bought into the Overwatch 2 hype because they knew the PvE content was coming. I was even saying to my girlfriend I was playing the other day, before they made this announcement, this was like a month ago, I was talking to her and I said, man, I wish I never would have quit playing Overwatch in 2016. Because I quit because, you know, the GOATS meta and everything just got really boring to me. And you know, the lack of resources into the game was pretty obvious to me. That's why I quit. But I was like, oh, you know, there's a lot of hype around this game. I love the characters. I love the lore. I'm really into the game. Like, I really like the game. You know, I like the art, design. I like the game. And so I was like, wow, I wish I would have stuck around, but you know, no, you know, now we're here.
4, I'll play Diablo 4 for Diablo. The thing that I can't.
But yeah. So I kind of lost where I was going to my point there, but they just didn't have to make these promises, but they made these promises because it was a marketing thing. It was to put positive sentiment out there from all the negative, stuff they were getting. Again, so short-sighted. There's so many, all these decisions are so short-sighted, man.
Can't stand is the bait and switch, is the lying.
Yeah, it's the bait and switch. I didn't need as Frito was saying, I agree with him. I didn't need an Overwatch ARPG or MMO or whatever, because I already got that. We're getting Diablo 4, man. I feel exactly the same way as Frito. It's the spitting in my fucking mouth.
Is the thought that maybe I bought more skins thinking they were still making that big game that they did not tell us they have canceled, when they knew they canceled it before they even launched Overwatch 2.
Yep.
They flew creators out like myself to show us all the amazing things they were doing for PvP. And when we kept nagging them, especially me, by the way, the most annoying of any of the creators, asking the hardest questions behind the scenes always, with only a few other of my peers that even come close to how much I hold Blizzard's feet to the fire. We kept nagging about PvE, and we never got a response. I don't think I've ever used a cuss word on this channel. Fuck you, Blizzard. Fuck you. Fuck you for lying to my face and to all of our other creators, getting us on board with a strategy that you were not disclosing fully the changes and downgrades you were making. I am never trusting another thing you say ever again, because I will have to.
And that's exactly what it is. I will never fucking trust Blizzard ever again. You know, there's a lot of hype around Diablo. I played the server slam. It's really awesome. But I simply cannot trust a single thing the Diablo devs say. Because I know it's not the developer's fault. It's a top-down issue. So anything they make, I cannot trust a single promise that they make. I can't trust it. It's like a see to believe situation where they don't have that trust. And again, I'll compare them to a company like Riot. Riot makes huge promises, but they also are very communicative with their community. You know, they promised the MMO and they said, look, guys, it's going to be a long time. You know, they didn't say like, pre-buy, you know, we created the world, now pre-buy the fucking, you know, like, just come on, man. They're so short-sighted.
To admit, I was lured by the personality and goodwill from the people who are working on the front lines, but fooled into believing that they speak genuinely. They often do, but they also speak PR speak for Bobby Kotick like everyone else does at that company, and you can't expect anything more from that. I am beyond irate about how we, as the entire community, have been treated by Bobby Kotick. It's been his fault the entire way through, and the leaks just keep compounding. If you remember leaks from a while ago from an associate producer that went to Riot Games saying that Bobby Kotick would come down after telling the dev team to work on one big direction and switch gears entirely, ruining progress. Now, on top of it, we have leaks saying that they would cut resources and make the project doomed to fail by having ridiculous expectations funded by starvation resource tactics. I'll end this rant today by reminding you Jeff Kaplan's final response before leaving the company, written almost as if it was on a napkin in lowercase. Jeff's final personal note, he says, I'm leaving Blizzard Entertainment after 19 amazing years. It was truly the honor of a lifetime to have the opportunity to create worlds and heroes for such a passionate audience. I want to express my deep appreciation to everyone at Blizzard who supported our games, our game teams, and our players. But I want to say a special thanks to the wonderful game developers that shared in the journey of creation with me. Never accept the world as it appears to be. Always dare to see it for what it could be. I hope you do the same. GG, Jeffrey Kaplan. And of course, a notable exemption here. The silence on certain aspects of the company is deafening. Supporting his developers as he always did, and very clearly throwing...
That quote kind of hits, given the situation that Jeff was in. I know that's a quote from the game, but that quote kind of hits special now with our context.
Shade at the suits that sabotaged his dream project, so much so that he was willing to leave it. After being one of the longest running developers at the company, who helped build the skyrocketing World of Warcraft and transitioned into another team to work on Project Titan, which eventually transformed into Overwatch. And I can't help but imagine if Bobby Kotick was willing to pay himself less and the talented people making the things that make him all that money more, if we could have just had more wonderful things. Overwatch 1 was a beacon of hope in the game industry when there was a lot of also-ran type shooter games out. Overwatch 2 was supposed to be the walk, as Aaron Keller describes it. Instead, as we know, that vision will never be realized at this pace, at the level of commitment that Bobby Kotick is willing to give this dev team. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it.
In my opinion, Overwatch is dead. Overwatch is dead. You cannot, it's not going to be a dead game. People are still going to play it, but you simply cannot trust Blizzard to handle this game with love and care in the future. I can't. I would love to. I would love to be able to love this game. But I just can't. I can't trust this company. I'm going to give them a chance again on Diablo 4 because I love Diablo. I love Diablo. The problem, like, Blizzard makes great games. It's just how they manage them and maintain them, and just the profit first model, the short-sightedness, man. Great video about your Overwatch, man. Just sad. Just sad.